And I just want to say for the record, LeBron James is full of it. And in this particular instance, as it pertains to his son, he is a liar.
Stephen A. Smith is back in the spotlight, and this time, he's taking aim at Bronny James. After recently going head-to-head with LeBron, Stephen A. is now suggesting that Bronny's financial future might not be as secure as many people believe. In this video, we'll break down exactly what Stephen A. said and what it could mean for Bronny's future, including the shocking truth behind the bankruptcy rumors. Now you might be wondering, how could Bronny James possibly go bankrupt when his career is just beginning to take off? Well, Stephen A. Smith just dropped a bombshell revelation. But to really understand how we got here, we need to rewind to where the real controversy began, because this wasn't about money at first. It started with family pressure and led to one of the most explosive confrontations in recent sports media history. The drama first erupted on January 28, 2025, when Stephen A. Smith delivered what would go on to become one of his most controversial takes ever on First Take.
And pleading with LeBron James, stop this, stop this. We all know that Bronny James is in the NBA because of his dad.
This wasn't just another hot take. This was Stephen A. Smith going full throttle on what he viewed as a father putting his son in an impossible position. And here's where things get really interesting. Stephen A. wasn't just tossing out random criticism. He backed up his point with Bronny's actual performance data. He pointed out that Bronny logged just 76 minutes over 18 NBA appearances, scoring 25 points with a shooting percentage of 25.8%. Then he compared those numbers to Bronny's G League stats, 13. 4 points, 3. 4 rebounds, and 3.9 assists per game over 7 outings. To Stephen A., the numbers told a deeper story, one that made him uneasy, not just as a basketball analyst, but as someone who recognized the immense pressure that comes with being LeBron James' son.
Bronny James has played in 13 NBA games. Ladies and gentlemen, he's averaging 0.3 points, 0.3 assists, and 0.4 rebounds. And he's playing in the first quarter of an NBA game? Really?
But Stephen A.'s criticism went far deeper than just the numbers on a stat sheet. He drew a striking parallel to one of boxing's most controversial moments, when Joe Frazier put his son, Marvis, in the ring against heavyweight champion Larry Holmes. It was a comparison that would soon prove prophetic, given the backlash Stephen A. would face afterward. What made the situation even more explosive was the context. This wasn't just any 55th overall draft pick struggling to find his footing in the NBA. This was LeBron James' son, sharing the court with his legendary father in what was being promoted as a historic, once-in-a-lifetime moment. The pressure was immense. The expectations were sky-high. And Stephen A. Smith was essentially voicing what many people around the league were already thinking, but were too afraid to say out loud. The timing couldn't have been worse for the James family. LeBron had made public statements that raised eyebrows, saying things like, "If you want me, draft Bronny," back in February 2022, and later declaring in March 2023 that Bronny's definitely better than some of these cats. Those comments helped create a narrative that, according to Stephen A., placed unfair pressure on a young player still trying to find his own path. But here's where Stephen A.'s approach became truly controversial. He wasn't just critiquing Bronny's on-court performance. He was questioning LeBron's decision-making as a father. And that's when things got deeply personal.
See a father on the court with his son who has NBA aspirations playing together for the first time in NBA history. My position has always been, that should have been the only moment we saw Bronny James in a Lakers uniform this season. Because he's not ready.
This wasn't Stephen A. Smith being cruel or trying to destroy a young man's career. In his mind, he was being protective. He looked at the situation, a 20-year-old averaging just 2.3 points, 0.8 assists, and 0.7 rebounds in 6.7 minutes per game, and questioned why someone with LeBron's legendary basketball IQ would put his son in such a challenging position. The criticism grew louder when Stephen A. began questioning LeBron's own role in creating the situation. He argued that LeBron's public statements about wanting to play alongside his son had essentially forced the Lakers' hand, putting the team, and Bronny, in a no-win scenario. As a result, Bronny wasn't being judged purely as a basketball player anymore. He was being measured as the son of one of the greatest players in NBA history, carrying expectations that no rookie should ever have to bear.
Because LeBron is the basketball savant. LeBron is one of the top 2 greatest players in the history of the game. LeBron has forgotten more basketball than most people would know. So no matter what we think about Bronny, he knows more.
What many people didn't realize at the time was that Stephen A. had actually been protecting Bronny for years. He later revealed that he had deliberately avoided watching Bronny play in both high school and college, not out of disinterest, but because he didn't want to be placed in a position where he might have to publicly critique LeBron's son. It was a conscious decision to maintain respect for the James family while staying true to his role as an analyst.
Bronny James was in high school. I never went to see him play on purpose. And when I spoke about it on the air, I said, the kid, from what I'm being told, has potential. But we all know how great his father is.
The irony of the situation was hard to miss. Stephen A. Smith, who had spent years deliberately avoiding any criticism of Bronny James, finally felt compelled to speak up, not out of malice, but because he believed the situation had spiraled out of control. His criticism wasn't truly about Bronny, it was about LeBron's handling of the entire narrative. But LeBron saw it very differently. On March 6, 2025, during a Lakers game against the New York Knicks at Crypto.com Arena, all that built-up tension erupted into one of the most dramatic confrontations in modern sports media history. That night, Stephen A. was sitting courtside, not as a typical fan, but as a guest of Ari Emanuel from William Morris Endeavor, seated alongside comedy legend Larry David. The game was nationally televised, and emotions were already running high following Stephen A.'s recent remarks about Bronny. Then, during the third quarter, right after a timeout, something unprecedented happened. LeBron James, one of the most composed, media-savvy athletes in the world, completely lost his cool. In a moment that stunned everyone in attendance, LeBron walked straight toward Stephen A. Smith, his intensity unmistakable, and confronted him in front of the entire arena.
LeBron James rolled over on me and basically started speaking to me, getting in my face about, stop effing with my son. That's my effing son. Stop effing with my son. And that was about the size of it. He didn't give me much of a chance to speak, to respond.
This wasn't just a basketball player lashing out over criticism. This was a father protecting his son. Stephen A. recognized that instantly. In that heated moment, he understood that LeBron's reaction came from a place of love and frustration, not ego. But the confrontation also exposed something deeper, a fundamental miscommunication that had been growing between them for months. Stephen A. thought he was defending Bronny from unfair expectations, while LeBron believed he was defending his family from public scrutiny. It was a clash of intentions, both rooted in care, but divided by perception.
He was very, very upset. That wasn't a basketball player confronting me. That was a parent. That was a...
To truly understand this moment, you have to consider the context. This wasn't just any random game. It happened on the very same day news broke about Stephen A. Smith's massive contract extension with ESPN. He was already dominating the headlines, and now he suddenly found himself at the center of a confrontation that would become the biggest story in sports media for weeks. But what made this encounter so remarkable wasn't just the confrontation itself. It was Stephen A. Smith's response. Instead of escalating the situation or reacting emotionally, he chose restraint. He stayed calm, composed, and measured. And his decision to do so revealed something important about both his character and his understanding of the moment. Stephen A. realized that this wasn't the time to defend himself or make a point. It was a time to show respect, empathy, and control in a situation that could have easily spiraled out of hand.
If the environment was conducive to that, not in the middle of a game, standing on the sideline, where my only recourse would be to make a scene by retaliating, I was not going to do that, ladies and gentlemen.
But what happened after the confrontation is where the story takes a dramatic turn. In trying to explain his actions, LeBron James would inadvertently reveal something that completely changed the narrative of his feud with Stephen A. Smith. The revelation came during a seemingly casual conversation between LeBron and his former teammate Richard Jefferson, just before a Lakers game against the Boston Celtics. Jefferson, who had won a championship alongside LeBron in Cleveland and now worked as an analyst for ESPN and ABC, was chatting with him on the sidelines. What began as friendly banter soon turned into a revealing exchange, one that exposed the real reason behind LeBron's anger that night and shed new light on the entire controversy.
LeBron James with Richard Jefferson, you saw the video. So when he sat up there and said, when I'm talking as a dad, right? That's the only thing I'm tripping. I don't give a F. Once he talks about you I plead as a father, I can't.
This was the moment everything finally clicked for Stephen A. Smith. LeBron's anger hadn't really been about protecting Bronny from criticism, it was about Stephen A.'s remarks questioning LeBron's decision-making as a father. Suddenly, the confrontation made sense in an entirely different light. It wasn't about Bronny at all. It was about LeBron himself. That realization was huge because it confirmed what Stephen A. had been saying from the start. his criticism was never aimed at Bronny James personally. It was about the impossible situation LeBron had created for his son by blurring the lines between family and basketball. But the drama was far from over. LeBron would soon take his frustrations public in a big way. On March 26, 2025, he appeared on the Pat McAfee show and made a comment that reignited the feud. Referring to Stephen A., LeBron quipped, "He's on a Taylor Swift tour run right now." The jab was clear. LeBron was accusing Stephen A. of milking their confrontation for attention, using the controversy to boost his visibility and generate headlines. It was a direct shot at Stephen A.'s integrity as both a journalist and commentator. But if LeBron thought Stephen A. would back down, he was mistaken. Stephen A.'s response would be immediate, sharp, and unforgiving, escalating their feud to a level neither man had anticipated.
And I just want to say for the record, LeBron James is full of it. And in this particular instance, as it pertains to his son, he is a liar. And he went on national television today, and he lied again.
This was Stephen A. Smith declaring war. He was no longer just defending his position, he was going on the offensive. On national television, Stephen A. openly called LeBron James a liar, signaling that the gloves were officially off. But he didn't stop there. In one of the most shocking moments of the entire controversy, Stephen A. referenced the infamous Will Smith-Chris Rock Oscar incident, making it crystal clear that he wouldn't have backed down if things with LeBron had ever turned physical.
You want this to be a reincarnation of Chris Rock and Will Smith? I would have gotten my ass kicked. Because had that man put his hands on me, I would have immediately swung on him. Immediately. That I'm not going to tolerate.